All right, so have you ever picked up your laptop and it just feels like kind of icky?
Oh,
It's like it's
okay.
trying to stick to your fingers.
Yeah, like that weird tacky feeling.
It's the worst. And it seems like every laptop I've ever had eventually gets this coating of something.
It's like a universal laptop problem, right?
Totally. And today we're going to deep dive into getting rid of it once and for all.
That sounds great.
I'm in. So we found this guide with a bunch of tips on how to clean it off and restore that nice smooth surface.
Awesome. So we can basically give our laptops a little spa day.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
before we even start thinking about cleaning solutions, what's the very first thing we should do?
Well, the most important thing is to make sure your laptop is completely powered down.
Okay, makes sense.
And unplugged, of course, no chance of any electrical accidents.
Right, safety first always.
Exactly. And I think it's worth mentioning if you have an older laptop with a removable battery,
Oh yeah, good point.
go ahead and take that out too. Just adds an extra layer of protection.
So laptop off, unplug battery out if possible.
Yep. Now we're ready to tackle the stickiness.
So what's the magic potion we're using to get rid of this stuff?
The best thing to use is isopropyl alcohol. You want to look for at least 70% concentration.
Okay, so rubbing alcohol.
Yeah, exactly. It's really effective at breaking down that sticky residue.
Gotcha. And what are we applying it with?
You'll want to use a soft, lint-free cloth. Something like microfiber is perfect.
So no paper towels?
Nope, those can leave little fibers behind. We want to avoid that.
Makes sense. So we've got our alcohol and our cloth. How do we actually use them?
So you're going to want to dampen the cloth with the alcohol and then gently rub the affected areas.
Okay, so no need to soak the whole thing?
Right? Just a little bit of alcohol goes a long way.
And how do we rub?
Small circular motions work best. Just be patient and keep rubbing until you see the stickiness starting to lift.
So this sticky stuff is basically just a breakdown of the original coating, right?
Yeah, pretty much over time, those materials can degrade, and
Mhm.
that's what creates that sticky feeling.
Interesting. So the alcohol basically helps dissolve those degraded bits.
Exactly.
Now, what about those really stubborn spots that just won't come off?
Yeah, this can be tricky.
The guide mentions a couple of more aggressive options.
Right. So if the alcohol alone isn't cutting it, you could try a magic eraser or even a plastic scraper.
Okay, but those sound a little risky.
Yeah, you definitely want to be super careful because they can scratch the surface of your laptop.
So use those as a last resort.
Exactly. And even then, use the lightest touch possible.
It's like a balancing act between removing the stickiness and not damaging your laptop.
Exactly.
All right, so let's say we've managed to get rid of all the sticky stuff. What's next?
So as you're wiping away the residue, make sure you're using a clean part of the cloth each time.
Right, we don't want to spread that gunk around.
Exactly. And once you've gotten everything off, give your laptop a final wipe down with a dry cloth.
Just to remove any leftover alcohol.
Yep, we want to make sure there's no moisture left on the surface.
Okay, and then the big question, what do we do before we turn our laptop back on?
This is super important. You need to let it air dry completely.
Like really, really dry.
Yeah, any moisture inside could cause problems,
Yeah.
so better to be safe than sorry.
So just to recap, we power down, prep the laptop, clean it with alcohol on a lint-free cloth, and then let it air dry.
Exactly.
That sounds pretty straightforward.
It is, and hopefully it'll help get rid of that annoying stickiness.
What if, after all that, it's still a little bit sticky?
You can repeat the process if you need to. Sometimes it takes a couple of tries to get everything off.
Oh, good to know. So don't give up if it's not perfect the first time.
Exactly. Persistence is key.
So we've got this simple solution for a very common problem.
And hopefully it'll make using our laptops a little more enjoyable.
Now that we've got our nice smooth surface back, maybe
Yeah.
it's worth thinking about why this happens in the first place.
That's a good question.
What causes that rubberized coating to break down and become sticky?
It could be a lot of things.
Like what kind of things,
Well, it could be the materials used in the coating itself. Maybe they're not as durable as they could be.
right? Or maybe it's how we use our laptops.
Yeah, the heat from our hands, the oils from our skin, all of that could contribute.
Or even environmental factors like temperature and humidity.
That's a possibility too. It's a whole area of material science.
Wow, so there's a whole world behind that sticky laptop.
Exactly. And understanding why it happens could help us take better care of our devices.
And maybe even make us more informed consumers in the future.
Definitely something to think about.
All right, well, thanks for joining me on this deep dive into sticky laptops.
It was my pleasure. I learned a lot.
I did too, and hopefully our listeners did as well.
And maybe now they can enjoy using their laptops without feeling like their fingers are stuck.
Exactly. Now go forth and clean those laptops, people.
Happy cleaning, everyone!
See you next time.